What's going on, Nerd Nation? This is Sleevecard signing in and welcome you back to another episode of Test That Team right here on the channel. The series where we go out on the internet, steal somebody's creative idea, test out their team, and give them cruel, often arbitrary grades based off of different things like, the lunar cycles, the tide, how I'm feeling that day, what I had for lunch, all that good stuff. And today, stepping up to the plate, we have a team from fellow PokeTuber, Veteran Trainer Jon, who of course gets a loud shout out, link to the channel down in the description. So if you enjoyed the team, enjoy all that good stuff, definitely check him out. But before I ramble on too much, let's just jump right on into it. So as you can see, the team is scrolling alongside over here. And as we're checking out, let's see how this bad boy works. So the team itself, I will be honest, I played it 30 times, I believe 30 times. And the team itself is pretty straightforward. So what we're going to end up doing here is really looking to punch holes into our opponents via Lopunny and Victini, and to a lesser degree, kind of Excadrill and Landorus. And really you're setting up so you can come in and just rock out a Moxie sweep or a Soul-Heart sweep with Magearna or with Gyarados and clean up on a well-damaged team. So ideally you're going to get out Mega Lopunny, go for first turn Mega Evolve Fake Out, followed by a Power-Up Punch, followed by Last Resort Spam. So then you're just spamming +1 Last Resorts. Maybe you predict and you get a second Power-Up Punch, and you're running +2 Last Resorts. But really what you're doing is you're just softening that team up. No matter what your team, or not your team, no matter what your opponent is throwing at you, you're really just softening it up with the goal in mind of getting out Gyarados and getting out Magearna towards the end of the battle to kind of sweep through that weakened team and clean up that way by getting your boosts on Moxie and Soul-Heart. So, having tested it for a while, here's what I love about it. There are always some things I love, there's always some things I hate, but here's what I love about it. So first and foremost, Last Resort, let's talk about that. It's not a move you see. Last Resort, Trump Card, all those kind of things, they're not moves that you see ever, really. And when you do see them, it's pretty gimmicky. So I do like that this one here, Jon used Last Resort, and he uses it in a way that is actually really spammable. First turn Fake Out, that's a free move, because either you're getting the flinch, or maybe they protect Fake Out, and they wasted a turn. Either way, you're getting in a free move. Then you're going for the Power-Up Punch second turn, guaranteed, because you can't use Fake Out, and you can't go for Last Resort, obviously, because you haven't used all your moves yet. And then you can just spam that 140 base power Last Resort over and over and over again. And it's neutral damage, it's neutral stab damage that is going to rip through a huge chunk of your opponent's team. Might not get KOs. I know when I was running it, it didn't necessarily do a lot of KOs, and it's outright, but it did what it was supposed to do. It softened up the rest of the team so I could come in with the rest of them to sweep. And speaking of sweepers, the second thing I love about this team is Moxie and Soul-Heart. Running Moxie, Gyarados, and running Soul-Heart, Magearna gives you two very valuable late-game cleaners. They clean up on these teams that have been softened up by Last Resort. And you can really use either or depending on the situation. Obviously, if you're dealing with a special defensive team, run Gyarados, take advantage of their weakened defenses. If you have the opposite, where it's a physically bulky team you're going up against, Soul-Heart, Magearna, same thing. So they're really nice. They come out, do great cleaning, great sweeping late game. And also, as far as late game cleaning, another beauty that I love softening up that team is Lando. Now, Lando, of course, is a huge staple in OU. It's a huge staple in the metagame in general. But this particular Lando, I love, because not only are you coming out and hitting with solid moves, but particularly you have Rocky Helmet, which does a good job of kind of biting the opponent back for any moves they try and hit you with, and Knockoff. Now, in an ideal battle for me, I was sending out Landorus 2, 3, 4 times a match and getting off knockoffs and just slapping those items away, because that definitely helped long term when I didn't have to worry about blowback from something that, was running leftovers or was running Life Orb, and suddenly they're hitting me with Life Orb boosted attacks on my sweepers. So just that Lando coming in, that really helps soften up the team. Now, those are 3 things that I love about the team. Now, there are some things that I did not care 100% for. So let's go into those. The first thing I didn't care too much for, honestly, is the 4th move slot on Megalopony. It's missing, obviously, because the whole point is first you run Fake Out, Power Up Punch, and Last Resort. Spam it out, get the boost, get the stab, Last Resorts, all that good stuff. But there were a couple times, and I won't say always, but there was maybe about 30% of the time I missed that 4th coverage move. Like I would have wanted High Jump Kick, I would have wanted Ice Punch, something along those lines, just to kind of surprise. Now I know that it's kind of counterintuitive with the spammable Last Resort, but like I said, there's some times where I wanted that 4th move. It wasn't all the time, but when it was missing and you did want it, you really noticed it wasn't there. And then the next one I didn't care too much for, the EV spread and running the particular item on Excadrill, it didn't really benefit it well as a lead. Typically, when you have a lead Excadrill, you're running Focus Sash. Now, this one had light, or not life orb. It had leftovers. This one was running leftovers, which is nice. It's nice on a bulkier Pokemon you expect to send out and kind of soak up more hits and recover and stuff like that. But if your goal is to send out an Excadrill that's going to Stealth Rock and then potentially Rapid Spin throughout the match, this was not it for you. It was kind of a mixed bag. The EVs, as far as the EVs are concerned, it did have defensive EVs, but it was lacking in speed EVs. So even though it had a positive speed nature, its lower speed tier and everything really didn't help it outspeed anything of note that I could tell. The matches I ran up against it, yeah, it didn't do so much. Now, I will say this, the quickest fix for this, and this was what I noticed, and this is what really got me rolling with the team and getting more victories in and stuff like that, was, and you can kind of see this in the matches they're playing on the screen as well, but taking out Excadrill and running Magearna as my lead, actually, because Magearna, 1, had more natural bulk. Really, as far as speed, it's kind of negligible, but it had more of a natural bulk, so I could soak up more hits, and then if I could get in a KO here or there, because Magearna has better coverage moves, I feel like, taking advantage of those extra coverage moves got me a Soul-Heart boost here and there, which then led into sweeps and things of that nature. So I can say that once I stopped using Excadrill as my lead and I started moving into Magearna as more of a lead, it definitely helped out a lot more, I think, as far as maintaining and winning those battles. And the third thing, and I kind of touched on this a little bit with Excadrill not having a great speed tier, is the speed tiers on this whole team are not so hot. The fastest thing, of course, is going to be Megalopony. Like, that's far and away the best. Victini has base 100 speed, things like that. So there are some things that are okay, but the relatively lower speed tiers, Excadrill's not a speed tier mon. Lando has okay speed, but it's not outspeeding anything of real note. Gyarados, Magearna, they're all okay for OU speed tiers, but they're not going to sweep like the faster metagame mons. So there were times when I was running across like Weavile and stuff like that I just couldn't keep up with it. So the lower speed tiers, my voice really went up there. But the lower speed tiers definitely hurt, especially when you look at the overall bulk of the team, because the lower speed tiers meant that you were going to get hit with more damage because you were going to get hit first. So us getting hit first with a little bit lower bulk means I probably took more hits than I really needed to. So there you have it. That's what I liked. That's what I disliked. Now let's dig into the grades, because what is a rate that team if we're not grading it on anything? So, as you guys may or may not know, I grade all the teams on 5 criteria. And those criteria are complexity, enjoyment, synergy, versatility, and win probability. So, first and foremost, we are giving complexity a B+. I like that it had a straightforward playstyle. You kind of inflict the damage that you need to inflict, and then once you soften up the team, you hand off to the late game sweepers, in this case Gyarados or Magearna, and you use it to kind of lock up the victories. It's really straightforward. Soften the team, then clean up with the designated cleaners. Things I didn't like, and what kind of kept it from like an A- or an A. The sets do get a little predictable, particularly Mega Lopunny, because you can't spam Mega Lopunny as much as you'd like to think. You can't really swap Mega Lopunny out and then bring it back in because they already know what your moves are going to have to be. Your first turn is always going to have to be Fake Out. Your second move is always going to have to be Power Up Punch, and then after that, you're either doing Power Up Punch or Last Resort. So your first two moves are highly predicted. So that does get a little old, and then your opponent can kind of work around it pretty easily after that. But luckily, for the most part, I was able to kind of work around that, which is why I got a B+. Now, next one, Enjoyment. This was getting an A, and I think this is probably the highest enjoyment grade I've given any team of the, 8 teams we've done so far. I'm giving it an A, and I'll tell you why. One, it makes use of a lesser utilized move, in this case, Last Resort. I said that at the top of the episode when we were talking about the pros. Last Resort, Trump Card, all that kind of stuff. You don't see that much, so I did enjoy the fact that I'm using something, I'm using it effectively, and it's not something I ever really use. So that, to me, heightens its enjoyment. Also, Victini. Like, that's all that needs to be said. I've yet to find a team that runs Victini that I haven't enjoyed. Like, Victini is just a cool mon to play around with. I feel like a lot of the mythical Pokemon are just really enjoyable to kind of mess around with. So having Victini and having it where I'm spamming, Blue Flare and Bolt Strike and all that kind of stuff, that was a lot of fun. It might not have been the most usable mon, and it might not have been like the biggest focal point of my battles, but I enjoyed using it like nothing else. The one thing that kept it from getting an A+ is Excadrill again. So relying on Excadrill, that was not so hot because it can't take a hit. Like, that's the problem. That's the biggest issue here. Even though we're putting in EVs into his defense, it really can't take a hit. Or if it could take a hit, it would get two-shotted by a lot of things. So relying on it to come in, and not just to clear hazards, but relying on it to come in, and there was times where I needed an Earthquake off of it, and having it come in knowing that its speed was really low, knowing that if I got hit by something remotely super effective, I was not going to stand up to the hit because we don't have Focus Sash, that was kind of a little hesitant for me because I wasn't happy knowing I had battles where I had to rely on that for the win. So that's the only thing keeping it from an A+. Next up, we have Synergy. Synergy, I'm going with an A-. And Synergy, of course, is how well the Mons work together within that team. Now, the one thing, and I didn't touch upon this in the pros, but one thing I did love, I loved it, enjoyed it. It was a huge pro. It would have been like the 4th point if I had put a 4th point on there. But the team destroys teams that rely on Volt Turn. If you actually look at it, like look at the 6 Mons right now, and you have 2 Mons that have Electric Immunity, so you don't have to worry about Volt Switches on them. And you have a whopping 5 Mons with Bug Resistances. Whether that's half or whether that's 4 times resistant, whatever the case may be, you have 5 of your 6 Mons outright resist Bug, so U-turns don't do jack. So you can soak up those U-turns, and it's just negligible, like, pittance damage. And the same thing for Volt Switches. If you know that someone's going to Volt Switch on you, you can easily swap into your Excadrill, you can easily swap into your Landorus, stuff like that, and just absorb it. And you don't have to worry about any of that, and you can trap those Volt Switchers in. The one thing I didn't like, of course I touched on this before, was the lack of speed and the priority. So on this whole team, there's not one single priority move. So there is no Aqua Jet, there is nothing of that sort that would have maybe given a little bit extra priority that would have helped in certain battles. It's not a huge loss, but it's definitely noticeable, especially when you get to late games where you're going, okay, I'm going to have to win on a speed tier, and this whole thing's not that fast. It would have been a lot nicer had we had blank priority move, whatever that move is. That was definitely missing from time to time. Next up, we have Versatility, which is getting a B+. Versatility, some things I liked. I definitely like the sweepers, like it's showing on the screen right now. I definitely like the sweepers and the fact that they can vary on matchup to matchup. There were sweeps that I had with Magearna. There were sweeps I had with Gyarados, I like the fact that you can kind of play around and you had something that tailored to everything. There were even a couple times where I had Mega Lopunny come out and just last resort, 4 Mons away and just kind of clean up itself. So there is a lot of versatility from sweeper to sweeper. Some things I don't like, especially as far as versatility, when it gets from behind, when this team is behind, 2 Mons, 3 Mons, whatever the case may be, digging back out is a pain. Now, if you're down 1 Mon, I don't consider that coming back from behind, because the way the matches ebb and flow, you're frequently behind 1, up 1, down 2, stuff like that. So when I say from behind, I'm talking about 2 or 3 Mons back, which is hard for a lot of teams to dig out of anyways, but this team in particular really struggles, especially coming up against like stall teams. So there were times where I would get behind, and then I would have a Blissey, a Chansey, a Clefable, whatever the case may be, come out and Toxic Stall. And even though this team is built around a lot of sweepers and stuff like that, there was nothing that really could break through those Toxic Stalls. So there were a lot of times where I would still pull out the win, but it would be like a war of attrition where I'm over here spamming these attacks, and we got to knock off to get rid of leftovers and that kind of stuff, where we just squeaked past whatever their Stallmon was. And last but not least, win probability. That one I'm giving an A-, so I'm not going to dig into it so deeply, but there's my records and everything I had popped up, so I'm covering record, the last 10, so you guys can see how I was doing later once I kind of got the feel for how everything should work. Longest win streak, loss streak, KO count, so you can kind of get a feel for what the differential was between matches. Now, the KO count is the overall KO, I will clarify that, is the overall KOs that I won by minus the ones that I lost the battle by. So if I lost a battle, let's say I won a battle 6-0 and then I lost a battle 4-0 or something, just to make it easy, my KO count would be +2. So that's not the exact number of Mons that I've KO'd throughout the whole thing, but it's the amount I KO'd in my victories minus the ones I lost in my losses, all that kind of stuff. So overall, I'm giving this team an A-. I actually really loved it. I think it was probably one of the best test teams I've had so far. So definitely shout out once again to Veteran Trainer Jon. Links to his channel will be down in the description. So you can, of course, hit him at Vet Trainer Jon on Twitter. You can go check out his YouTube, whatever the case may be. Spam him, show him love, show him hate, tell him his team sucks, whatever you want to tell him. You do you. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Of course, if you have a team you'd like me to test, if you have something you want to check out, I mean, even if it's not a test that team, just shoot me a message here on YouTube. Go to contact.sleevecard@gmail.com or hit me up at sleevecard@twitter.com. So any of those three, shoot me the team. I'll definitely check it out for you. And of course, if you do like what you saw today, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button for me, because those likes do mean quite a bit to me, especially now in the midst of our little small channel adpocalypse nightmare that's going on. Definitely hit that thumbs up, show some support to a small creator. And while you're down there, if you want to take our relationship to the next level, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But once again, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. This is Sleevecard signing out. Have yourselves a beautiful day, and I'll see you later.